This is our podcast,
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
the podcast that nobody watches.
7 people watched our last episode.
Did they?
Yeah. And only 2 the one before that, but 7 the one before that. So I don't know.
The one that I thought was our best episode was 2 episodes ago, I think, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And that was that we had our full viewer count on that, our full 7. Don't we have 8 followers?
We have 9 now because
9.
I followed us.
Oh, you fucker. I'm the one who did you notice the comment on one of the videos? From one of my other Google accounts, I put a comment on one of our videos that I want to fight you to a bare knuckle boxing match.
I didn't see that.
So, is anybody surprised? I'm certainly not, that Alexy Navalny is dead. He was never going to not be dead. His fate was sealed.
I'm actually surprised they kept him in prison for as long as they did, rather than just off him right away. I mean, they tried to kill him before they ever arrested him.
Tried to poison him, right?
Wasn't he one of the ones that was poisoned with polonium?
Oh, no. I don't think so, because he never would have recovered from that.
No, he did, though. I mean, no, there were... I don't know. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, there was another guy that got...
I know there was another guy.
And he was fucking wrecked from it. He was absolutely destroyed. God damn it. Litvinenko.
Yeah.
He died 23 November.
Litvinenko. Now, that was in Britain, right? Didn't he get poisoned in Britain?
I think so, yeah, and because the British government was pretty pissed about it for a while.
Navalny was poisoned with Novichok nerve agent.
Oh.
In 2020. I guess that's what I was thinking. So, yeah, he was poisoned and survived it. And then they arrested him and let him live for a couple weeks before they decided to kill him. He was in court just hours before he died, and he didn't look sick or anything. So, and they won't give his body over either. So I don't know if he's got bullet wounds or what.
Well, I also saw that there was footage of dozens of Russians being arrested who were laying flowers in front of the jail for Navalny.
Yeah. Well, articles I've read said there's really no one to take his place in the anti-Putin movement in Russia. There wasn't anybody else with charisma or anything that can take over. So that seems like maybe...
It's nobody else wants to fucking die.
Well, yeah, I mean, you tend to fall out of high windows and get poisoned with radioactive materials often if you go against Putin. Hey, Putin, just want to say, if you're watching this, Putin, fuck you. Come and get me.
I'm going to tag all the Russian bots in this one. Yeah,
it would get me, Vladimir. I'm ready for you.
It was like the Wagner guy. I don't remember what his name was, but his fate was sealed when he turned his tanks toward Moscow.
Yeah, and they let him live for a while too, which shocked me.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, for sure, that would have been right there and then that they offed him.
They even publicly said that he was fine and like gave him a route to go to Belarus or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. But yes, his fate was... That's why I don't understand why he stopped. His only chance was to keep going, and his troops would have kept going. And
yeah, somehow or another, Putin convinced him, "Oh, just calm down. Everything's okay. You get what you want." God. Yeah, the thing, I was thinking about that today. That whole situation where the way they took him out, they took out a bunch of innocent people in that. I know that doesn't mean anything to Putin and the Russians, but it wasn't just that guy they took out. There was the fucking...
Prigozhin's his name. I can't think of his first
yeah.
name.
There you go.
He's probably a Vlad too, or Yevgeny. Is he a Yevgeny?
Yevgeny, yeah.
Yeah.
But they took out fucking the pilot, the fucking flight attendants, whatever. That's shitty. I'm glad Prigozhin is dead. He was a fucking... If he would have taken over and conducted a coup against Putin and assumed power, it would have been awful. He would have been worse than Putin. He's a fucking...
You're just the same. I don't know if you can be worse. You just be the same.
Yeah, I don't think...
Yeah. I don't miss Prigozhin either, but I will definitely rejoice when Putin finally kicks it.
Yeah,
Although I was putting my hopes on him being sick, remember? Because like they kept talking
yeah.
about he wasn't in public stuff. But I didn't really watch the fancy boy interview of Putin when what's his name went over to
Tucker
Moscow.
Carlson. Yeah.
I didn't watch it, but I saw clips of it, little clips of it on TikTok and stuff, and he didn't really look all that. He didn't look like he was on death's door.
No, he
In
looked
the
he
interview.
looked as healthy as he's ever been. I think that was just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But you and I both know that whatever happens to Putin, I mean, he's going to have an end to his time. And no matter what that end is, if he secedes power because he's too old, some other fucking old Cold War guard is going to take over for him. There's no, I don't know how there's any hope on the horizon for Russia.
Yeah,
And
there's not, particularly with Navalny dead now.
because
There's definitely
when
not.
okay, I'm old enough to remember Gorbachev, and I'm old enough to remember, um, oh, the fucking drunk guy that was buddies with Clinton that took over.
Yeltsin.
Yeltsin, Boris Yeltsin, yeah. Those two periods of time when Gorbachev cozied up to the West felt like there was, light at the end of the tunnel for Russia. And Yeltsin was just a bumbling idiot, which that was better than anything. But then all of a sudden, and then when the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union dissolved, fucking Putin comes out of the woodwork, having been a fucking KGB agent all of his life, and just he's bringing it back.
Yep. Well, he didn't bring back communist Russia. He brought fascist Russia.
Yeah. Well, but I'm talking about bullying his neighbors and bringing back a new Soviet empire.
Right.
Anyway, don't run for office in Russia if you want to have another birthday party.
Right.
So you take the next one, the Chiefs parade shooting. I probably shouldn't talk about it.
All right. I should probably put these in order sometime. I just put them in as I think of them.
It's fine.
So yeah, there was another mass shooting. Only one dead, but 22 I think was the last count I saw of injured people. And this was perpetrated by juveniles. A pair of juveniles are in custody. So you got your usual march of thoughts and prayers from the Republicans. I don't know. The mayor of Kansas City's solution was we just won't have parades when we win the next Super Bowl. But nobody wants to talk about making it harder to get guns still. So just mention, I mean, there's really no point dissecting that. We already know. This is just how it's always going to be. There's going to be a mass shooting and nothing's going to change. So just mentioning it.
Do you own a gun?
No.
I used to have several guns, and when my first son was born, I got rid of all of them because I didn't feel a need for them, and it was right about the time of Columbine, and so I felt better getting rid of them. But I go back and forth today about whether or not, because we had a situation up in Pensacola last summer where a Lyft driver got murdered by a passenger, and some people had said to me, "You better be carrying a fucking gun while you're driving Uber and Lyft." And I've thought about it. I don't know. It might be time to start stockpiling weapons.
I'm not against everybody have. I mean, wait, let me phrase that correctly. I mean, if you want to have a gun, fine. Just be able to pass a background check of some kind, a mental competency check of some kind, and don't be a fucking kid, right?
Mm.
Is that okay?
Yeah, and if you have kids, you should have to take extraordinary measures to make sure that those kids can't access those guns.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I don't own a gun. I do have a concealed carry permit in Pennsylvania, just because why not?
mhm.
But yes, I don't actually own any firearms. Never have, but I was in the Army, so I did shoot them. In fact, I was the brigade range NCO when I was at Fort Bragg because I was a leg. I didn't like jumping out of airplanes. So I got all the details. I had to issue parachutes when the brigade went on jumps, and I had to run all the ranges, which was there was one like every week for the entire brigade. And there were people qualifying on all kinds of different weapons, and I got to shoot them all, and it was
What?
fun.
When were you at Bragg?
Night, 2003, 2004.
Oh, because my son was stationed at Bragg when he was 82nd Airborne. That was 2013, 2012. You were long gone.
I was in the 30th Engineer Brigade. No, 30th Engineer Battalion, 20th Engineer Brigade. I don't remember. I was in the 30th Engineer Battalion, definitely, and we were part of some engineer brigade. But anyway, neither here nor there.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be so easy to have guns, and you shouldn't feel. First of all, if it's true that it was just an argument that escalated to shooting, I don't know how we. I mean, we got to stop that, right? Maybe we just make it legal for people to beat the shit out of each other. so like, oh, we could shoot you and risk getting arrested, but if we just decide that we're just going to fight physically, fists and feet, then we won't get arrested. So why don't we do it that way?
Well, hang on a second, because I know for a fact that it's called the Law of Mutually Consented Combat. There are states that have it on the books.
Yes, there are, but it's not most, and I'm pretty sure it's not mine.
Huh? What'd you say?
It's not most, and I'm pretty sure it's not mine.
No, it's not most.
I live in.
No. Mutual combat states. Oh, there's only 3. Texas, Washington, and Oregon.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But no, I mean, people brawling on the street, 9 times out of 10, someone's going to get charged with battery. And if you take that away and let people settle, I mean, I don't know. Do movies lie to me? Didn't people do that like in the 50s and 60s? Didn't they just fight with fists and knives? I guess they use knives. They
well, no,
anyway.
but they would, but they'd still get charged with something. They'd still get charged with disorderly conduct or something. But go back to, let's use movies as an example. Gangs of New York, in that time period. What was that, the early 1800s?
It was 18-somethings, 1850s.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You just fuck up people left and right, and there was no legal recourse about it. I think you're right. I think we need to be able to go back to that. There'd be far fewer, because in most of those cases, it's only those 2 people that have a beef that are going to be hurt.
Yeah, and I mean, and if it was 2 people beefing, how the fuck did 22 other people get shot? Obviously, they're not good shots, right?
Well, I had heard that the way that this went down is whoever these kids were that had guns, they basically literally spun around in a circle and just kept discharging the gun. It just sounds like a reckless, stupid fucking thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what you would expect. I don't know how old they were. Juveniles means under 18. They could be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I don't know.
Well, even if they were older than that, their emotional maturity was in the gutter. So
yeah,
it's not going to change.
Nope. Well, because thoughts and prayers don't do shit. And I had said at one point it'll change someday if some mass shooter goes into a private school that all the Republican politicians' kids go, then maybe it would change. But the more I think about it, no, it wouldn't. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't change even then.
Nope. I've so lost my energy for so much of this, because there's just so fucking much going on, and everything is more awful all the time. And so it's just kind of, I'm like becoming desensitized to so much of this shit, and then I'll see something like there was the one photograph that the journalist over in Gaza had said he would never post, and then he finally posted it about a week ago, and I saw that, and I was like,
if you're talking about the girl hanging off the building,
no, this was a different photo. That was enough to.
That was the most traumatizing thing I've ever seen in my life.
That was horrible and awful and heartbreaking, but the specific picture that Motaz was talking about was something other than that, and it was, I don't ever want to see it again. Everything's fucking awful. Anyway, let's jump to Russian nukes in space.
Yeah, so I don't really, honestly, I don't feel the way that some people apparently do about this. Yes, it violates a treaty, but I mean, when the story broke, it was like, oh my God, we're all screwed. They're going to put nukes in space and all that. But first of all, they don't actually have the technology yet. They're just developing it. It's just a plan. It hasn't happened, and I don't really understand. I mean, if Russia has the technology to detonate a nuke in space to knock out all the satellites, they're knocking out their own satellites too. It's going to hurt them just as much as it hurts us.
Yeah, that for that reason I'm suspicious of the propaganda, the timing of it's always the timing of the propaganda. I there's red flags about this all over the place.
I mean, I believe that they probably, they got some intel that they've got that developing somewhere. But I mean, what was Reagan's SDI? What was that? Wasn't that going to be nukes in space?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Russia.
I mean, it was weapon. I don't know if it was nukes specifically, but it was weapons in space. And also, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, China actually blew up a satellite in space.
China did, but so did Russia. Russia did the same thing. I was going to say is that
and nobody freaked out about that.
Well,
I mean, yes, they were blowing up their own satellites, but it was a test. It was proof that they have weapons in space, which is what this is all about. There's a treaty that you can't have weapons in space.
Right.
They both violated it already, and nobody said anything. And now, just because they're planning on doing it with a nuclear weapon, Congress was all freaking out about it. I don't know.
I mean, there was reaction to both the Chinese and the Russian tests that destroyed those satellites in orbit, because the reaction was based on the fact that, in one of those situations, they had to boost the orbit of the ISS to avoid the debris.
Right.
It was these clouds of fucking debris that are traveling at 14,000 kilometers per hour that would devastate anything it hit. So that's a huge concern with this.
And I'm going to be honest, I would be absolutely stunned if we don't have some kind of technology like that in development also. I would be stunned.
Yeah, we do.
So I don't think it's a big deal. I don't know if that launch is ever going to actually happen, if they're ever actually going to develop it or actually implement it. But even if they do, I don't think it's that big a deal.
I agree with you. I think I have red flags about the whole story, and it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Russia's most effective tactic in causing the destruction of Western culture and Western civilization is not going to be bombs and weapons. It is going to be what they've been doing for decades, that has really sort of culminated in the last few years with propaganda and misinformation.
It's funny. I don't know what kind of video games you play, but playing Civilization, you ever play those games?
I used to.
You can, in one of the games, maybe Civilization 3, I don't know, but you could build spy units. And one of the things you could do if you got a spy to one of the other countries, they could be a friend even, one of their cities, is one of the options you could do is foment. I don't know the word. FOMENT.
Yep.
Insurrection. And like that would cause the city to go into rebellion. And that's literally what Russia's doing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time I see some of these MAGA idiots, actually this just popped into my head. Lindsey Graham on Twitter said that Putin must face consequences for killing Navalny. What the fuck is that? He's been licking Russia's balls for years. So what caused that change of heart?
It's a convenient thing to say. It's easy to say, and it's absolutely meaningless. He's not going. And Biden said the same thing. There was a speech fairly recently, before Navalny died, where Biden was saying that if Navalny dies in prison, Russia's going to pay a heavy price, which it's an ambiguous statement. It's never going to amount to anything. But it's all just fucking saber rattling and bluster that Nothing's going to happen. There's no.
Yeah, I just found that interesting because that alienates some of his voters for sure.
His voters are not smart enough to keep track of these things.
I suppose that's true.
They really aren't.
All right, so we're gonna put all the former president stuff together, right?
Sure.
All right, let's talk about the Houthis just real quick. So they made one of their, leaders or whatever made a statement that that they can and will cut the internet cables in the Black Sea, which would sever the internet between Europe and Asia and maybe the Americas too. I'm not sure. My question is, do you really think they can do that? That's what I would think. But then right before we came on here, I did see that our Navy attacked a Houthi submarine today. It was an unmanned thing that wasn't designed to go cut undersea cables. It was designed to go blow up, steer up next to a ship and detonate or something. But I mean, I wouldn't think they would have that technology either. But I guess that stuff's cheap.
Well, those cables, I don't know the exact configuration of those cables, but if they are undersea cables that don't come up to land, because eventually they come back up above the water, but that doesn't happen anywhere near Yemen, then it's much harder for them to do that because it's going to require, because those cables are heavily protected, that you'd need some heavy equipment down there to sever those cables. So there's two questions in this. Could they do it? Do they really want to do it? Could they do it? Sure, they could. There's a slim possibility that they could be successful in doing that. If they did that, it would be self-defeating, because I think that it would cut off any communication between, let's say, Gaza and points east. Depending on where they cut it, it could cut off communication from Gaza to all points. It's self-defeating in so many ways. One of the few tools that we have to be able to stand up to and track the horrible things that are going on in the world is the internet.
Right. And I mean, the internet is the only reason why we even know what's going on in Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think they would. I think it would be self-defeating for them to do it. They need they need to flex their muscle in some way and let the world know that, hey, this is a possibility, but I don't think they would ever do it. There's too many reasons not to do it that are self-defeating, in terms of what the impact would be.
I question whether they'd even be capable. That's not.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a stretch. All right. When you brought this up, it reminded me when I worked in the alcohol and drug treatment programs up in Vermont. I had a guy who was a patient who worked for a telecommunications company in Vermont, and I lived in Montpelier at the time, which is the capital city in Vermont. And he was telling me, and I checked this out, and it turned out to be true, that there is a major internet trunk that goes through this one neighborhood in Montpelier, Vermont. It's on the corner of State and Main. I know exactly where it is, and he showed me where the manhole cover was, that if you open up that manhole cover and drop an explosive down there, you're going to take out the internet for a very long time on the entire eastern seaboard. It's completely unprotected. It's vulnerable as can be. But when he told me this, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'd always drive by there and think, oh my, I could totally fuck some shit up today.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one of our infrastructure things that are unprotected and exposed. I mean,
yeah, and
it's crazy how unprotected our infrastructure is, and how easy it really would be for, like, I mean, if terrorists weren't in the business of just killing or terrorism, right? Just trying to hurt as many people as possible for the terror aspect, and they really wanted to do damage, they'd hit our power plants or our internet or something like that, and that's easier.
And pound for pound, there's more terror involved in taking those things down, because you're going to have people, depending on what utility is taken out, scrambling to try to survive.
There was a time I was in Korea at the time, so I feel like it was the late '90s. I think I was in Korea at the time. I remember seeing it in the news, but I wasn't there. I grew up in upstate New York, and something happened in the entire Northeast, like from New York, Ontario, and all of New England, lost power all at once for like I feel like it was in the late '90s.
Wasn't it a solar flare?
No, it was some. I don't know. It was some power plant got shut down, and I think in Canada because of something. Might have been a solar flare. I don't know. I just remember seeing it on the news because I wasn't there, so I had to be in the army at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in Korea for most of that, so I had to be there. I just wondered if you were in Vermont when that happened.
What year?
I feel like it was the late '90s, but you would probably know if you were there.
No, I didn't go up. I didn't move up there till 2000.
I mean, it could have been in 2000. I don't know.
I don't remember anything like that happening. I remember the
I just
stories.
remember seeing videos of like in New York City of all the people having to walk out of the subway because
I remember that. Yeah,
couldn't run. And
I
stuff.
definitely wasn't living there yet, but I do remember that now. Yeah, I don't remember what the cause was ever determined to be.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not a mystery. You can look it up. I didn't prepare that. It just came in my mind.
Yeah, the idea of, I mean, it happens all the time where a storm, like you got power out a block east and west of you. You know, if that goes on for weeks for people, that becomes a huge issue. It becomes
Yeah, so the longest I've gone without power, and I was in Korea for this too, and this was a hurricane or a typhoon that hit the base I was on, and we lived in the barracks were old. The base I was on was an old Japanese base when Japan had colonized Korea,
mm-hmm.
and they left their base behind, and then we took it over because we're just as much colonizers, and that's where I was. So, but it was old. Everything was built in the late 1800s, and typhoon came and we lost power. The entire base lost power. Now, here's the difference. It was for like a week, is what I was getting at. We didn't have power for like a week, which was crazy. But the thing was, right outside the walls was Seoul, and Seoul lost power for about 24 hours. So we could go off the base and get food and whatever we needed. So it wasn't that big a deal not having power for a week.
Well, hell, Seoul, South Korea losing power for 24 hours was probably a big deal on its own.
Yeah, it was. I mean, trees were down everywhere. It was pretty crazy. I don't remember what year that was. 2000 something, 99. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to not have power at all for an extended period of time. That would be tough.
I mean, think about any utility. Think about not having running water for 5, 6, 10, 12 days. Think about not having internet access, any sort of internet access for 5, 10, 12 days. These things give me anxiety to talk about. You don't, when you live in an area like I do where you're supposed to be prepared for hurricanes, you're supposed to have enough of things like fresh water, stored up canned foods, blah 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 blah, to last you for a couple of weeks. But that's all well and good until you have to start using those things because you don't have access to the normal things.
Right.
The idea of losing any utility is fucking awful. And I've got a generator now, but I haven't had to use it yet. But I've always wanted to have one because when the power goes out here, it fucking sucks. Just for the fact of the food in the freezer being at risk, and that pisses me off. I pay money for that shit.
Plus, it probably gets hot pretty fast too if you don't have air conditioning.
In the summertime, yeah, it would be fucking unbearable. I don't know how you'd survive that. It'd be awful.
Yeah, my parents, their air conditioner broke last year when they were down there in Fort Myers, and it was broken for like 3 days, and they said it was really tough.
Sucks.
And this wasn't in the summer. This was in the winter, but
Yeah.
it was, or the spring maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they only stay down there until May.
Your beloved idol, Trump, was judge to owe $354 million in New York. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of hubbub about, oh, he's never going to pay a penny of this, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? If he thinks he's not going to pay, he has to appeal. And if he is going to file an appeal, he has to put that money up in order to file the appeal. He can't just go file an appeal. He has to put up $354 million in order to file the appeal. So I don't know that he's even going to do that because he doesn't have $354 million.
Yeah. Also, if you don't pay on a civil judgment, they start taking stuff.
Yeah. That's
so
that's
they'll
inevitable.
start taking his properties to satisfy that debt.
Also can't run businesses in New York for 3 years. Neither can his. This is interesting. They said his sons can't run businesses in New York. They never said anything about his daughter. Does it include his daughter?
I don't know.
Were they just being patriarchal cunts by saying sons when they meant his sons and daughter? Because somebody was saying in a reply to one of my comments on TikTok that, oh, he's just going to have his daughter run the business. Or his wife. See, the judge could have stripped him of his businesses across the board. That was talked about, and for whatever reason, they pulled back from that. They always do this shit. But yeah, he's going to try to find loopholes. He's going to try to find workarounds. I think whatever policing of this Engeron is going to do is going to be pretty. He's going to be pretty vigilant about it. But what the recourse is, I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know. Not being able to run his businesses doesn't really do anything. It's just, I mean, the money is going to hurt him, though. I mean, I don't know how much money he actually has. I don't believe he's a billionaire. He says he is. I don't believe he is, no, especially if you value his properties properly.
Yeah. Kim Jong-un said that he loaned him $10 million and he's sending the bill to the U.S. government. So
yeah, he loaned him $10 million like a long time ago.
It wasn't during his presidency?
No, it was like a long time ago.
Okay.
Like in the 90s. And now he wants it. He wants to get paid back because he's worried.
Oh, and his idiot followers had started a GoFundMe.
I saw that. They had $289,000 raised already.
Yeah. And truckers in New York City have declared that they're not going to pick up loads because of this judgment. Bullshit, you motherfuckers. You're so full of shit. Go ahead and go broke. Go broke, you stupid bastards.
Yeah, I saw a trucker on TikTok saying he wasn't a New York trucker, but he said he's not going to deliver anything to the state of New York anymore.
No, bullshit. Okay. Fucking bullshit. They're fucking lying. Oh my God. So now he's hawking sneakers.
Yeah, so what I read about this is a business that's actually run by the same guy that ran his NFT.
Oh, of course. I didn't know that, but yeah.
Yeah. That same guy went to him, hey, Donald, I got another business for you. How about we make this sneaker that's gold and has a giant T on it?
That's some of the ugliest shit I've ever seen.
But his supporters will buy that shit. Nobody else will, but his supporters will. Nobody else will, donate to that GoFundMe, but his supporters will. You are a Trump supporter. You are getting grifted all the time, and you're so stupid you don't even realize it.
I know. It's fucking insane.
What are those Trump NFTs worth now?
I looked that up, and they're actually worth something. There's some value in them. I don't, and in some cases, I think some people made back what they spent on it, but it's not as bad as it appeared to be when it initially came out.
Yeah.
There was some guy on TikTok, I don't know who he is, a young black guy who made a video about these Trump sneakers and was saying that if I catch anybody in the black community wearing these or buying these fucking sneakers, I'm going to jump your ass. I'm going to beat your ass. And on that post, some old white guy came on his post and said, come catch these hands. I'm like, he's not fucking talking to you, you dumb shit. Like, fucking boomers. Oh my God. So let's do a little experiment here. Let's think a week ahead. What could possibly happen that we will be talking about in the next week? Because none of this shit was on my bingo card. What do you think is going to be talked about next week?
Oh, you know what? I don't know, but there's stuff this week that we didn't talk about that I didn't put on the outline, like the key witness in the impeachment hearings has been charged with perjury.
Yeah. I saw that.
So that's a big nothing burger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as we know, it's all made up. What are we going to talk about next week? I don't know. There's going to be. I don't know if there's any primaries this week. It's a holiday Monday. I don't know. Nikki Haley said she's not dropping out, so we're not going to be talking about that. Trump might file an appeal. There's that. What's going on in Georgia with that? The Fannie Willis.
Oh, I don't know, but that's.
I didn't put that on there because I don't really know what's going on there.
They're having a procedural hearing or meeting or something within the court to determine if she violated her ethics in her relationship with this prosecutor, this attorney.
Right.
Which none of it has a goddamn thing to do with the things that Trump is charged with in that state. It's completely irrelevant. If she violated her ethics, she should be held accountable for violating her ethics. Anything beyond that, if they want to claim that, it should.
But the other thing is, if the district attorney, I mean, getting rid of the district attorney doesn't get rid of the charges.
No, not at all.
I don't understand what their goal is there.
Do they think that I don't know what the process is in Georgia if a DEA is removed from office, if the governor or somebody, places somebody there, the governor of Georgia, Democrat or Republican?
He's a Republican, but he's not a Trump guy.
Okay, so he wouldn't. That's not Raffensperger or whatever, is it? No, he was the Secretary of State for.
Yeah, Georgia. It's Kemp.
So they think that a Trump sympathetic. The charges have been filed. The hearing has been set.
Yeah,
it's all a distraction. It's all nonsense. It's a delay tactic.
It's so. I mean, I know it's so they can go to their supporters and say this is all bullshit because she's not ethical.
Oh yeah, they're already running with that as much as they can. So hopefully that'll be resolved by next week. I don't really.
People's Choice Awards are tonight. We could talk about that next week.
They're still doing that shit.
Yeah. Whoops.
I haven't watched that stuff.
In fact, here I got a game. I got a surprise for you. All right. I know you're not a sports guy, so you didn't watch the Super Bowl, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm gonna mention some commercials that may or may not have occurred during the Super Bowl, and you tell me if you think they were real or not.
Okay.
All right. There was a commercial for NASA where they had deep fakes of Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong pretending to land on Mars. And then they were trying to raise money or raise awareness or stuff to fund their Mars mission. Was that a real ad or not?
I'm going to say no, because there's no reason they would do that.
Okay, you're right. That was.
Oh, God damn. I'm so glad I'm not wrong. It's fucking awful.
There was an ad for Temu where they had this song that goes, "Spend like a billionaire at Temu." And it had all this stuff you could buy on Temu for no money. And you're aware of Temu, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes.
Is that a real ad or not?
That would probably be real.
Not only was that a real ad, there were 4 of them.
And those ad spots are several $1 million a piece.
$7 million a piece. Yep.
And Temu sells shit for pennies.
I mean, people don't get what they order from Temu. You just get whatever.
Is that completely true?
I've seen so many videos of people like, I was supposed to get this, but I got this, and
Yeah, I've heard the complaints. I didn't know how common that
yeah,
was.
I've never bought anything from Temu, and I probably never will, because all I see are people complaining about it. So,
Yeah.
but enough people are buying shit from them that they had 4 Super Bowl ads.
Jesus Christ.
All
That's one
right.
thing. Go ahead.
There was an ad where that had Jesus in it, white Jesus, and he was washing feet of people, lots of people, like or it wasn't white Jesus. They just had white guys washing the feet of like black guys and gay guys and stuff like that. Is that a real ad?
I think I saw a segment of that, so I'm going to say yes, that was real.
Yeah, that was totally a real ad. There were 4 of those as well. Only one of them was feet washing. I don't remember. There were 4 Jesus ads.
Who was running it?
He Gets Us, the He Gets Us thing that's run by the Hobby Lobby guy.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Gross. Fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Those were awful.
Yeah, that's
All right,
something
that's
I didn't notice, because usually the Super Bowl ads are a big deal and you see them like running on the late night talk shows and stuff, and I didn't see any of that this year. It seemed
Yeah,
like
well, you wouldn't see those. I don't think those were the most popular ads. I don't honestly. None of them are that memorable. I can't think of one right now that I would say it was so good or something.
yeah, it seemed pretty lackluster.
But yeah. But
Oh,
anyway,
you got anything else?
I don't know. I feel like I want to talk about more stuff. I don't have anything to think of that I'm thinking of. I don't know. Let's cruise through the. Anything happen while we've been on here?
I don't think so, but I do want to bring one thing up. There is a trend going on social media right now called Coffee Revolution. Have you seen this?
No.
There is a hashtag Coffee Revolution, and then you add your locale into the hashtag at the end. Like I would do Coffee Revolution Florida Panhandle or whatever, and you place that hashtag on content that you're putting up that is about Gaza. It's about world events. It's about social issues, and that hashtag will help you coordinate with people that live in your area for things like mutual aid, for things like protests and campaigns and awareness and things like that. So if somebody else were to search Coffee Revolution Florida Panhandle, they would find, my posts and other people's posts who put that in and so forth around the country. So
Interesting.
I want to promote that and put that out there, and I'll make a short clip of this part of the podcast. I'll put it up on our Leftist Lens TikTok as well as my TikTok, and I'll send it to you, and you can put it up on yours.
Good idea. Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I only became aware of it this week, but several mutuals are promoting it pretty heavily, and they deserve to be supported for it. But
speaking of Gaza, though, there is one other thing that I saw, and I did not do deep research on this. I'm just taking the word of some people on TikTok and the screenshots of news articles they put up. But when Israel decided to invade Rafah during the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Israel has publicly stated that they were doing that to get 2 hostages out, and they named them. But people found news articles of one of those hostages having been released a month prior, which means they just completely made that shit up.
Yeah.
So
nothing shocking there. You could say anything about Israel at this point that is abhorrent, and it would turn out to be true. There's just no limit to it. I'm
sure you saw that tweet from Biden's Twitter account where he had the red eyes after the Super Bowl, and the text was just as we drew it up, and you didn't know what he was really talking about. Like, was he talking about Israel invading Rafah? Obviously not, but not so obviously. That was pretty tone deaf. And when you think about the fact that his social media team's gotten credit for being run by young people and being like on top of things, that was a huge misstep, and I feel like he should have got way more heat for that than he did.
Yeah, I saw him being dragged for that on TikTok and Instagram, but it is definitely not as
But he
much.
needs to be dragged by the White House press corps.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
there is a headline that just came out in the last 2 hours from The Independent saying Putin critics bruised body seen in morgue as family demands its return. So I don't Navalny's body, obviously, yeah.
So he's beaten to death, or he fell out of a window.
Well, the story they gave was that he went out for a walk and
just collapsed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. It's just, oh my God. I don't know what to say about it anymore. There was 40 minutes ago, a shooting in Burnsville, Minnesota. 2 police officers and a first responder die.
Yeah, a domestic disturbance. I saw that.
Well, there it is. I don't have anything else.
I don't either. All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Yes, adios all. Be safe and yeah, have a week.
The atmosphere burns from toxic emissions, and we keep getting murdered simply for existing. We are out on the cutting board to dissect and manipulate. Radicalization does not take much for all, but provides much for all. And fruitless, spineless liberalism will only stand idle while we spiral down the same path. What good is a cage? What good is our blood running down drains? What does our suffering show? There's no choice left but unite.